Good morning, everybody. This is again Walter at the Dutch Mentor. We are having another chat about leadership. Today I'm welcoming Dr. Adam Harrison. He is coming all the way from UK, although in an internet connection, he might be sitting next to me in the next room over. But Adam and I have chatted over the last year. He has done some phenomenal work and has a really different outlook. He has some exciting news about maybe even moving down under. Today's conversation is about his journey, how he became, went from being a physician to a physician leader to a coach. And then secondarily, the question is his coaching philosophy, because he is an advisor in our Physician Leadership Academy, which we are starting on September 20th. And we look forward to bringing real value to aspiring leaders here in the United States and really anywhere in the world. So Adam, why don't you take it away and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Thanks so much, Walter. Thanks for having me, and for taking me onto the faculty. Yes, so I am, as you rightly said, a physician by trade, if you like. Qualified as a doctor in the year 2000. Started off by doing some surgical training, surgical residency. Had a few kind of issues and wobbles along the way. Experienced a sort of disproportionate amount of workplace bullying, really, from bosses in the different jobs that I did. So just sort of decided really that it wasn't for me long term to be working with these kinds of people, that were not really in alignment with the way I wanted to work and live, really. So I went into family medicine, did my family medicine residency. Really enjoyed that. I've always been a bit of a jack of all trades, enjoyed all of my subjects at medical school. Interestingly, and I think somewhat naively, thought that, family medicine, the family medicine space would be some kind of utopia in comparison to the surgical space. And in the UK, for the viewers that don't know what the UK model of family medicine is like, a lot of clinics are actually owned by doctors themselves, and they're called partners. So they're GPs, general practitioners, GP partners, and so they have a vested interest in the financial side. They are essentially small business people, and that kind of gives them a different take on the way things are done, how you refer people and investigations you request and things you prescribe. And, they've always have a bit of an eye to how much is being spent, because it's cutting into their bottom line, So they can be a bit more brutal than I thought they were going to be. So I'd always had this sort of enduring interest in medical law. Ever since I was an intern and a junior resident, I'd worked with attendings that had done expert witness work, like medical legal reports, and appeared in courts to give evidence and so on. And that really kind of really stood out for me as something that I wanted to get a bit more knowledge of. So I worked in family medicine for a few years, and then decided I had to scratch that itch of doing something in the medical legal space. So I went off to work for a company that actually represents doctors. You pay them a subscription. They're called indemnity organizations. They represent doctors at hearings, and they in court when claims are being made against them, and so on, and also with the regulator, with the medical boards. And that was really, really fascinating. Loved that job. But when the cases got really interesting, you had to hand them on to legal. And I'm a bit of a completer finisher. And I was like, I want to be doing that side. I want to be on that side of the fence, kind of like doing the bit in court and finishing it off, So I thought, well, the only way to do it is to go to law school. So I went to law school in 2011. Passed the bar after my law degree, passed the bar in 2014, which kind of coincided with the time that my wife, who's now an attending maxillofacial surgeon, she was just coming off maternity leave from our first child. So we had a 1-year-old at home, and it just didn't seem like a great time for my wife going back to her residency, for me to be embarking on this career as a very junior lawyer with all the hours that entails and the kind of low pay and so on. So I said to my wife, look, you're on this very well-defined career pathway heading to attending. So you keep on doing that. You know, I have a medical degree, I have a law degree, I'll figure it out. You know, but we never wanted to be the kind of parents that, you know, used au pairs and nannies and things like that to kind of raise our kids. We wanted to know our children. So I was like, yeah, you know, we can sort all this out, it's fine. So I actually ended up reaching out to a few local medical organizations and saying, look, I'm in the area. I have you know, I'm obviously a doctor. I'm legally qualified as well. You know, is there any work that you need doing? Any way that I can help you with your doctors that you look after? And I was co-opted onto some committees. I ended up being elected to boards and became a director and then a vice chair of my local medical committee in my region. I ended up working for the National Health Service, the overarching structure, NHS England, which administrates the NHS, especially the primary care side of things, as an assistant medical director over quite a big patch in my region. And it was during that time that I was offered the opportunity to have some coaching. So I had this kind of course of leadership coaching. I had 6 sessions with this phenomenal leadership coach who herself was a former public health attending, actually. And I just loved it. And what happened in the next year was that my wife got offered a fellowship in Australia. And as you can see on my Zoom background, this is part of the Northern Territory, Kakadu National Park in the Northern Territory. So we all went as a family for an adventure. My wife to do her fellowship in Darwin, and we lived life in Darwin over the pandemic. We were there for 18 months. And I decided that I wasn't going to work clinically because my wife's job, her surgical job was very, very intense, a lot of hours on call every other day. So I thought, well, I'll kind of, you know, look after the home, look after the children, do all the necessary things, and I will do my coach training. I'd loved my leadership coaching that I'd experienced as a coachee so much, and you know, things like just being exposed to the concept of values. I mean, we all know what our values are, or we have a kind of inherent idea of what our values are. You know, we have a moral compass, an internal moral compass that kind of guides us. But it was the first time in my life that actual words had been put to those feelings, you know, and why I was attracted to certain situations or opportunities, and why I recoiled in horror, you know, something potentially compromising my integrity. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And one of my core values is justice and fairness, and it made a part of my life make sense. You know, that when I'd been a junior doctor, when I'd been a resident in surgery, I wouldn't tolerate injustices. You know, I wouldn't tolerate inequity. I would call things out. I would put my head above the parapet and I would call things out. And obviously, you know, that leads to you getting a target on your back. And I would, you know, my IMG colleagues and female colleagues who were being discriminated against, I would speak up, you know, and call things out. And I, you know, it ended up with me being a target of bullying. And, you know, but it just made sense when I look at my values now. It all kind of it all fits, and I just. You know, it's just who I am. You cut me in half and look through me, and that's who I am. You know, that's in my core. I would do that again and again. So I did my, I decided I was going to do my coach training. I did my life leadership and executive coach training in Australia with a provider over there. Absolutely loved it. And, you know, spent a year kind of doing that to a good standard. And yeah, then we eventually came back to the UK, and that's when I set myself up doing mainly leadership coaching. You know, I have clients in the UK and the US, mainly physicians, and I do organizational training in healthcare organizations as well, keynote speaking now. I'm a director of coaching for a wellbeing company locally. I have a podcast on leadership, which is called Inspiring Women Leaders. And all my guests are absolutely phenomenal female leaders from which, you know, we can all learn. So yeah, that's me.
That's quite the journey. Well, they say sometimes the best coaches and mentors are not the ones who have gone up a straight line, but have that, you know, there's the left, the rights, the ups, the downs, the full experience. And certainly you were very candid and open and in sharing some of your experiences, and I think that makes for a better coach as well. Right, you combine it with really good listening skills, but also good, you know, and great ability to get action, you know, into place that allows people to transition from being a clinician to becoming that physician leader. They can lead with empathy, they can lead with confident humility, and that's exactly what our Physician Leadership Academy is about. And again, your value on the advisory board and the advisory sessions with the physicians who will be joining that will be value adding, right? And we're trying to grow it from there, because on the you know, every single physician I've spoken to over the last years, we all understand that the gap that you experience between a clinical person and who wants to become a clinical leader, that valley of despair is deep, and that you need that support system in between in order to be able to climb out of that and become that high performing clinical leader, because leading is very different from doing. And it is good that you have that descriptor. So the second question is then, in your leadership coaching, what is your philosophy for the physician leader? What is it that you, you know, the one or two takeaways in a couple of minutes we have left that you can talk about, and then, you know, we can talk a little bit more about on how we're gonna, you know, how the Leadership Academy and coaching will work for the future.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of angles to this. Firstly, in terms of my approach to coaching, I see coaching and mentoring as being on the same spectrum, and some people are very much the mentor end, and some are very much the coaching end. I'd say I'm more on the coaching side, but definitely a kind of hybrid of the two. So that's my approach. In terms of actually working with leadership clients, I mean, ultimately, the first thing to understand is that they're humans. You know, you need to look at someone holistically. You know, they're humans with relationships, with family members, with complications, you know, with financial issues. You know, we all have these. You know, are they paying enough attention to their well-being and so on? Exercise, sleep, healthy nutrition. You know, there are all of these parts, and for me, the bedrock really of good leadership coaching is you know, looking at someone's well-being and looking at someone in the round. I also like to I feel that my lived experience is what I bring to the table, you know. So I've burnt out myself a couple of times. As you've heard from before, I've transitioned and diversified my career on many an occasion. I've been a victim of workplace bullying. You know, I'm very kind of, you know, very interested in burnout and resilience and well-being, and obviously leadership for me, you know, that having been on the receiving end of some pretty shoddy leadership over the years, you know, is why I have this passion. And I do believe that, you know, good, kind leadership is the other side of the coin that is workplace bullying against individuals, you know. And so for me, it's great to work with individuals and help them, you know, regain their confidence and boost their confidence and so on. But there's not really much point in doing that unless you're taking a top-down approach and really tackling things from the C-suite downwards. You know, everyone should be modeling a kind of kind behavior. But yeah, no, my approaches are very much values-led, values-driven, very much about kind leadership, excellent communication skills, you know, especially active listening, or something that Otto Scharmer calls generative listening, which is a deeper level than active listening. Self-leadership is absolutely key. Bringing the concepts of growth mindset and emotional intelligence to the table as well, you know. So yeah, and in terms of take homes, I would say, you know, be a kind person, be a kind leader. I love this quote by Rabbi Harold Kushner. Do things for people not because of who they are or what they can do for you in return, but because of who you are. And also be very kind to yourself. Treat yourself as you would your best friend. And from a values point of view, live, love, and lead by your values, and do work in alignment with your values. And I think this is where some people go wrong. They go to work and they have that sinking feeling in the pit of their stomach as they walk through the door, or something triggers them, and maybe their values are just not in alignment with the organization's values, and that may be why that's happening. And be compassionate to yourself as well as others. I think that's so important. So they're my kind of main areas.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the reason why we get along, because I think that our values are very much aligned, and I think that the basis of the sub foundation, the 4 pillars of spiritual wellness, physical wellness, relationship wellness, and mental wellness are paramount. Those are 4 pillars that are a constant state of motion, and if any one of them is not checked in on, it becomes a wobbly chair. And if 2 of them go, you're going to fall. You're going to get to that burnout portion. And so it is a holistic approach of leadership, and that's really, my approach, and that's really what I think that we can talk about. The Leadership Academy is different from what people have experienced. Listen, I'm all about the MBA and MHA and law degrees and MD degrees, all good foundational knowledge, but none of them teach you how to be a highly effective, kind leader. And that's where we need to change, is that when we take physicians especially, but that goes across the spectrum of all emerging leaders, when you go from doing the work to becoming a leader of people and process, there's a lot more learning to be done. And very few people do this effectively. They send people to workshops and conferences and webinars, all good social events. But on Monday morning, nobody remembers the thing that was said at those events, and they go right back to what they were doing, and often emulating the people that they work for, which is not always a very good thing. And why we want to make a difference is to do this over a sustained period of time, over a 6-month period of time, with weekly 30-minute coaching, supported by really robust curriculum in the background that is action-based, where you can change those habits and behaviors to go from where you are today, how you are perceived, bringing that much closer to become that confident, humble leader with high emotional intelligence, who is outward looking, who can deliver for the organization to a real team environment. And I'm excited about that, and I'm excited for you to bring your perspective to the physician group once we get the ball rolling, and can come in January when we start hopefully our 2nd cohort, that you will become one of our coaches to the physicians as well, not just an advisor, but also a coach. That's our growth plan. So thank you, Adam, for joining me this morning on this quick talk. Look forward to continue to build a relationship. I'm ecstatic for you that you get to go to New Zealand. I've not been there, but it's on my bucket list of places to go. I will have a place
have somewhere
to, visit,
to stay
right?
now.
That's exactly right. I actually have a lot of family in Sydney and Melbourne and Perth on the mainland. But not. I haven't, and some family in New Zealand. There were sheep farmers back there, but I would have to go back in history to see. After World War II, my family in Holland scattered all over the world, and many of them landed in Australia and New Zealand. Some here in America and Canada. So, but that's another story for another day. Have a wonderful day. Good connecting with you, and we'll talk soon again. Thanks you
so much, Walter. Cheers.
Cheers.